Hello, my name is Teddy Holt. I am an orientation coordinator or an OC this summer, which if you didn't see our previous workshop Wednesday that we did, is basically just someone who's the liaison between students and orientation leaders and the staff of the Office of Student Leadership and Engagement. And we're working to plan orientation for you. I am here today with Lizzy Burton from Program Board, Amelia Gerrard from the Center for the Civic Engagement Center, excuse me, and Briah Cooley from the Student Org Committee. I'm so used to saying those as macronyms that it really did take a lot to get those out of my mouth as the full names. For everyone watching, you will usually just hear those as PB and CEC and SOC. We're here to tell you guys a little bit about how to get involved at MAC. There's a lot of questions about how do you get involved in MAC during a pandemic? I mean, we don't necessarily have answers for you about that specifically, but we do want to just really impress upon all of you how important it is to get involved at Macalester, and how that has really changed the lives of everyone on this call. I think the first person who's going to talk today is Lizzy. You want to take it away?
Hi, I'm Lizzy. I use she, her, hers. I'll be a senior next year at MAC and also the chair of Program Board, which is pretty much the programmatic arm of MCSG, which is the student government. And so that just means that we plan events for the student body and different types of events at that. I became a part of Program Board my sophomore year as the office manager. And I had heard about Program Board my first year, and my on-campus job then planned events and kind of worked with them a little bit. And so then I joined sophomore year, and now I'm the chair. So as that next year, I pretty much just lead Program Board and help coordinate the different groups that we have and lead meetings and build community within our board members. And our goal is to build the community of Macalester through the events that we plan. So I'll just explain Program Board a little bit more. We have different kind of subcommittees that have different emphasis for types of events. So traditions, which mostly includes Winter Ball, which happens in the winter, and Spring Fest, which will happen hopefully sometimes when it's warmer outside, but it's usually inside given Minnesota winters. And those obviously with the pandemic probably won't happen as they usually do, but there will be a virtual type of it, I'm sure. And then we also do off-campus events, usually through our Arts and Community Committee. So museums, concerts, we go apple picking every year, things like that. And then we're also taking over the lectures that a different committee used to do. So bringing engaging lectures to campus. That'll hopefully also operate virtually. And so we're not exactly sure what our events will be next year exactly with everything going on, but we're looking to do some creative, unique things. And something that will happen is Welcome Back Week, which we do every year. So we're looking to do our virtual bingo for books, which happens every year, and chances to win gift cards to our bookstores and other off-campus partners. And we'll still have Program Board and build community within our own board. And we have 2 first-year coordinators that we have every year. So you apply, and then we'll interview you and potentially be on the board. So if that's something anyone's interested in, please look out for that. And then also, if you don't actually want to be a part of Program Board, there's lots of events that you can attend and hopefully see it across campus. Our Instagram is Macalester_PB if you want to follow that and follow along with what we've done in the past, and then also have that to look forward to in the future for things to join. And that's Program Board in a nutshell.
Thanks, Lizzy. Program board is super cool. I think when I think of program board, the first thing that I think of is like the donuts and stuff that you do, and like the little
Oh,
study breaks.
yeah. We just also have random little
Yeah,
things
lots
throughout
of
the
random little
semester.
fun things.
Food will still be an option next year that will get out to students. And then next we have Briah, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so my name is Briah. I use she, her, hers. I'm going to be a senior as well. And I'm the SOC this year. So SOC is the Student Organization Chair for the SOC committee. That's a part of MCSG. Basically, my position is to help charter orgs, to be a liaison between orgs and the rest of SOC. And I can also partner with FAC, which is the Financial Affairs Committee, but a lot of that is very MCSG territory. So I was also on a few orgs in the past few years. So I was on BLAC, which is Black Liberation Affairs Committee, and I was on Africa. I was the treasurer for Africa. And I became SOC because after being involved with these orgs for so many years, I wanted to see how, like, what really goes on with creating orgs and things like that. I'm still on BLAC this year. I'm going to help coordinating Black History Month, hopefully. I'm also a Bonner Scholar, which is actually part of the Civic Engagement Center. That's one of the pre-orientation positions, or pre-orientation programs, sorry. And yeah, so one of the biggest things that SOC does is the involvement fair. This year, that's going to be virtual. We're still in the process of figuring out how it's going to look like, but we're most likely going to use Flipgrid to coordinate that. And then we're also moving from OrgSync, which is the website that we use now, to maintain orgs, have their budgets, things like that, to a website called Presence. It's still being built, so we haven't launched it yet. But if you join a student org through the involvement fair, that's where you're going to see a lot of the information that they have, any events that they'll be having. And if you do decide to become part of an org and say you're like the treasurer, that's where the budget would be, all in Presence. So yeah, there's a student org list. I can share that in the chat with all the current student orgs, and hopefully they'll all be there at the involvement fair. So yeah, that's all I can really think of. Ways to get involved is to join a student org, obviously, and a little bit of advice. So my first year when I went to the involvement fair, I signed up for a lot of different orgs, and I only went to like 2 of them. So it might be a little bit easier to sign up for orgs this year since they're virtual. It might be there might be a better flow of things that you're interested in. There's nothing wrong with signing up for a bunch of orgs, but you might be on the email list and you never end up actually going to meetings. There's also interest groups, which are smaller versions of orgs. They don't have a budget, and they're usually surrounded about, some of them are surrounded around identities. So there's like Women of Color at MAC, there's Men of Color Collective, there's a bunch of different groups, interest groups and orgs. So I can share the list, and yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say.
Thanks, Briah.
And then Amelia will be talking more about the CEC.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Amelia. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I just graduated in the spring, so I'm a 2020 grad. Over my time at Macalester, I also took part in a lot of organizations, and I think it's so important what Briah is talking about. Also, PB is amazing as well. But I was a part of an a cappella group. I rode for Club Crew. I also founded Queer Faith Community, which is a religious and LGBTQ org on campus. But a lot of my work on campus was mostly involved in the Civic Engagement Center. I got involved right away in my first year through a pre-orientation organization called Lives of Commitment, but also just because I wanted to connect with the Twin Cities communities. I'm actually a local. I'm from Stillwater, Minnesota, which is about 30 minutes away from Macalester. But I came to Macalester and I was like, oh yeah, I know everything. I'm in the know about Minnesota. And I just realized how quickly like that wasn't true. And I realized that through the different connections that I had in the Civic Engagement Center. So the Civic Engagement Center is essentially a place that connects Macalester and us as students with the Twin Cities community. And one of the primary ways we do that is through volunteering. So I volunteered my first year with a group of Somali women, and I taught a math class, and I would go there every week. And I honestly, it became one of my homes away from home, because I would go there, and no matter what was going on at Macalester, what was happening, I just loved these women, and I loved connecting with these women, and they were so funny and vivacious and energetic and just gave me so much life. And their passion for school in the way they made it just so easy for me to teach, because I didn't remember a lot of math and then I had to bring it back, and they were so nice. But they just really, like, their energy reminded me why I wanted to go to college in the first place. And I think that that's the amazing thing about connecting with the Civic Engagement Center, is being able to build yourself into those communities. So there's a few different ways you can connect with the Twin Cities through the Civic Engagement Center. One of them is volunteering, like I said. So you can either volunteer once a week, which is definitely going to look different in the pandemic, probably like smaller groups, online, things like that. Or you can volunteer once in a semester. So that's one facet. And we have a lot of different issue areas, which basically means we take volunteering and all the nonprofits in the Twin Cities, and we break them down into different passions. So from environmentalism to youth and tutoring to immigrants and refugees to all these different things, we have those areas. You can also, as part of a class, have a volunteer component to your class, and the Civic Engagement Center helps you connect basically what you're learning to going out in the community and doing it, which is really amazing. And then the other form that is a primary way you can connect with the Civic Engagement Center is you can actually get an award for, so if you have a student employment award on campus, you can actually earn your award through an off-campus Twin Cities organization. It's called Off-Campus Student Employment. So basically you could go, let's say you're really interested in doing policy work at the Capitol. You could go do policy work and earn your student employment award, like off campus, doing something really amazing that relates to you, but also can be helpful to your path in the future. And I'm actually have earned my award all throughout college at the Civic Engagement Center. I was the immigrants and refugees organizer, so that just meant that I connected people who wanted to volunteer with immigrant and refugee populations in the cities to those communities. And that was just phenomenal. It was like the first job I did I ever loved, because I've just like done a lot of random jobs before then. So I think those are all amazing ways to connect with the Civic Engagement Center, which you can do all throughout your time at Macalester. The Civic Engagement Center is really just like there to help you out, there to connect you to the Twin Cities, especially if you came to Macalester, if one of your reasons coming here was because we're surrounded by these two incredible cities. Go out and get in them, like find out what that's about, get connected into the communities. And the Civic Engagement Center is a really, really phenomenal way to do that, and to meet friends and to build connection. And I'm passing it back to Morgan. Yeah.
I don't see any questions in the chat thus far. So do you want to maybe talk about just some of our guiding questions? We'll talk about, why orgs and engagement are so special to our panelists.
Yeah, so, in lieu of not having any questions from the chat, which, by the way, if you are watching this video or this recording, feel free to send in your questions about getting involved at MAC, and we would love to answer them. But since there aren't any right now, I do have some questions prepared for our lovely panelists. first one, what makes you so passionate about the work that you do?
I can
Amelia
go.
or Briah?
Yeah. Um, so for me, being on BLAC and Africa, both of those boards, it was stressful because I did do them at the same time in my sophomore year, um, which is something that I don't recommend. But I've been on the board for BLAC since my freshman year, and it's become a part of me. That community is very important to me, and it's also very important to me to have events and make sure that people know about them. So when I first started BLAC, we were kind of in like a restructuring phase. So my sophomore year, I had to rewrite the charter. Each org has a charter that they submit to SOC to be reviewed, and that was a lot. But rewriting that charter and understanding that we were missing a lot of like core facts that we should have been doing with the org, it was important to me because we started doing them my junior year. So we had a full board, we had elected roles, things like that that were all missing before. And it made me want to go into SOC as well. I was very close with the previous SOC chair, so I knew what his job roles were, and it seemed like something that resonated with me to be in that role because I had to communicate with SOC a lot. But I don't know, for me, it's a sense of community. That's what kind of drives me. That's also with Bonner. And yeah.
I can go next. Yeah, I think that one of the things that motivates me and makes me so passionate about the Civic Engagement Center is just the people. The people I've met through the Civic Engagement Center have been some of my best friends. I have connected so deeply with the staff because they just really care about students. And every time I go up to the Civic Engagement Center, which is on the 3rd floor of Markham Hall, people genuinely ask me like, how are you doing? And to have that kind of care for students and people thinking about students all the time and staff about our lives and well-being instead of just about like classes and academic success is like really refreshing and lovely. But also just because I think that like it's so easy to go into Macalester and be like, I'm going to be engaged in all of these things and just like zoom through your time. I'm saying this as somebody who just graduated, without taking advantage of what is out there. And I say that not like to say take advantage so you can get good things on your resume or so you can, I don't know, get a pathway to a job, which is fine and good and honestly has also been helpful to me through the Civic Engagement Center. But I'm saying that because like there's so much community wisdom out there in the Twin Cities that I would not have learned in the classroom. And that's something that is a really important part of the Civic Engagement Center, is that it's not about like going into a community and helping or adding or giving. It's about manifesting a reciprocal relationship where all parties are benefiting and learning and growing together in community. And I have learned so much through the people that I've worked with about life and about seeing the Twin Cities in a different way and about myself and what kind of work with people I want to do in the future because of my connections through the Civic Engagement Center. So I definitely think it's the people that just like brings light, especially in winter, being able to complain with the people I'm volunteering with where they're like, I hate snow. And I'm like, yes, but actually winter is fine, but you have to complain together. That's how we survive. So yeah, the people are amazing. And I'll pass it off.
Yeah, echoing both of you a little bit with this, but I think the people and the community that you find within it, especially with the program board, we kind of have our own like tight-knit group, which is really awesome and fun. And we kind of have a weird knowing that we're all slightly kind of type A and always planning things out, and we kind of bond with things like that a little bit. But it's good we have some balance of different personalities, so it's kind of a funny experience within the board itself. But then also, I know personally and from other people on the board that it's really cool to plan something and see other students enjoy it, or like have someone walk by and be like, oh, thanks for this Menchie's, which is a frozen yogurt place here, like something like that. And having it like brighten someone's day, especially when it's stressful periods of school. And it's been kind of cool to be a part of that and connect with the broader Macalester community with our own work. And I think I've found that really rewarding, and it's just fun. It's a lot of work, but it's really fun. And yeah.
I am not seeing any questions in the chat right now, which is totally fine. So I will ask you guys and give you a second to ruminate on. You could just share like a funny story, or a favorite memory from volunteering or from being involved in your clubs or things involved with program board. I think that our attendees would definitely appreciate hearing a little bit about like the stuff that you guys have been directly involved in. And then if we don't have any questions after that, we'll wrap it up with, of course, the caveat that you guys feel free to email us or to DM the orientation Instagram at any time if you have more questions about getting involved at MAC.
I have a couple. My sophomore year, I took a bus of, it was mostly women, to a Rupi Kaur talk in downtown Minneapolis. And then we were all kind of in the cold, like waiting, and I was having to call the bus driver, and like some slight stressful situations, which sometimes happens, coordinating different things. But everyone who came to the event was very friendly about it, and like was just happy that they kind of got out of the Macalester campus and bubble a little bit. So it was kind of nice to like feel supported because I was the only actual PB person there. And then also we all worked the like large winter ball and spring fest, which are large traditional where the whole campus is invited. And again, my sophomore year, I kind of missed out a little bit junior year because I was abroad the fall semester, but I was pretty much like leading everyone on the buses to go to the Walker, which is a museum where Winter Ball was held. And I was kind of in charge of shuffling all these people. And I ended up like, I feel like I saw the whole student body come through, which was kind of just a cool experience, and felt very sense of community with that. And then lastly, in the spring, we meet in the Briggs House, which is potentially alumni house, which is on campus, but it's a really cute, cozy place on campus. And we have a retreat and all hang out together and plan events. And it's always a really good atmosphere with everyone. So those are my 3 things that come to mind.
Yeah, for me, I can think of Kids Fest. So it's something that Macalester does every year. I don't know if they were able to do it this spring because I was abroad, but I remember doing it in my first year. And as a Bonner, you're not stationed. You're placed in a public school in St. Paul for your work study, and a bunch of the kids there were from the school, so I saw a bunch of the kids that I was already teaching and helping as a teaching assistant at Kids Fest, it was very cute. It was adorable when they realized it was me, and they were split into different groups already, but they kept wanting to come to me because I was their teaching assistant for that class, which I thought was just really fun. Kids Fest, it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's basically a volunteer thing, and they have different tables that are for different countries as well. Usually students, international students who are from there, they're doing some kind of activity that's representative of their country at Kids Fest. So yeah, that's a really fun thing to volunteer, and you don't have to be a part of Bonner or LOC to do that. Anybody on campus can volunteer for it. Yeah, that's something that was really fun for me. I also lived in the Culture House for my sophomore and junior year, which is a specialty housing on campus. It's kind of like a living and learning community. So you live with about 10 people, and then you also learn about different cultural aspects of the Twin Cities, or you get to learn about each other's different cultures, or you get to go to different restaurants and you have different house activities together. And we also work closely with the DML. And then there's also usually cultural orgs will have an event at the C House called In the Kitchen With, and they come in, they cook, and then they also kind of share a story about what they're cooking, or they have people come in and cook with them. I don't know if that's going, sorry, I don't know if that's going to happen this year, unfortunately, probably not the fall, maybe this spring, but being in the Culture House is really an experience. You can apply to live there your sophomore year, so I would really recommend applying to live there, and I can send a link in the chat with more info.
I don't know, there's so many good ones. I think that one of the ones I think of the most when I think about my experience going out into the communities is I worked with a group of Korean refugees for about 2.5 years at Rondo Community Library. And it was just this group of 2 families, and we would just come together every week and practice conversational English in a really low stress environment. And we just really all kind of fell in love with each other. We would come and share stories about our lives and our families and about similarities and differences in our cultural backgrounds and also in our personal experiences with life. And at some point, we all just started bringing food because this event took place on Saturday afternoons and it was kind of lunchtime. And so people from the group that I was working with would bring different food that was coming from a Korean context, and we would like bake muffins and bring cookies and stuff like that. And there was something really amazing about uniting over food and being able to feed each other in our minds and in our bodies and connecting in that way. It just felt really personal. And it was actually one of the hardest communities for me to leave when I graduated, which was kind of surprising to me because I had been involved with a lot of different components at Macalester, but not being able to like see these faces anymore was something I knew that I would always carry my experiences and friendships with these people with me. So that's one. Another one that came to mind was I drove a big van of people to the caucus last, gosh, when even was that? Spring, fall? I should know these dates, these important political dates. But it was recently, and we all caucused together, and it was just really amazing to see people bring different resolutions they wanted to present in this political format. And also it was my first caucus since I had been brought to one with my mom when I was a kid. And it was really cool to also connect with the community there, but to talk about our political concerns together. And yeah, I think those are some good ones that come up to mind.
Thank you all so much for sharing. The spirit of community shines through so much in all of your responses, which I think is exactly what we need going into this next semester, because we will be remote. And I think building that community by getting involved is extra important right now. This is about all the time that we have, but I do know that the CEC is planning on hosting an event. Is it this week?
Yeah, it's this Friday. I'll put it in the chat right now. But it's just basically a little bit more civic engagement specific. We know that people might be coming in with a lot of questions considering George Floyd's murder and the protests and movements around it. And so we want to give a specific place for people to ask those questions and to understand how they can directly get involved straight going into Macalester, and some places for that. And we really want to answer your questions honestly and personally, knowing that there might be a little bit of less information sources this summer, considering the pandemic. But thank you all, both Teddy and Morgan, for hosting this, because I think it's really wonderful. But yeah, please come Friday at 2 p.m., I believe. And we'd love to see you there.
Thank you all so much for joining us, both panelists and attendees. And hopefully all of you who join this call will find great things to get involved with at MAC. Bye.